Hey Nischal, how are you doing?
I'm good, Nuno. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. Thank you for spending some time with me today. And so let's talk about Shardium. Where did it all start?
Sure. So a bit of a background about Shardium is that I met Omar, my co-founder, back in 2019, and I was busy building and scaling WazirX, which is India's largest crypto exchange, and Omar was busy building the core protocol for this blockchain. And when he told me about what he was building, it sounded really interesting because he was attempting to build a sharded blockchain. Um, However, I think he was halfway through, so he hadn't completed out what he wanted to build. But I was really intrigued by his vision and what he wanted to eventually accomplish. But I also knew that sharding is a hard problem to solve, and everyone's been attempting, but there's not been a sharded blockchain which has actually achieved the entire spectrum of sharding. And Omar was trying to do that. So I told him that let's stay in touch. I wanted to see how he builds it out. And then last year, 2021, he I actually came across a YouTube video where he was demonstrating all of the things we had discussed in 2019. And so he and his team had completed out the blockchain. So I got in touch with him again. I told him I told him let's catch up, and we met in person. We spent about 2 days brainstorming, and then we decided to work together and build Shardium. So that's how the idea of building a smart contract platform which was scalable was something that I was looking out for. And this just happened to be where Omar was building a solution. He was not building a smart contract platform. He was just building the protocol, which is you can just simply transfer from one account to another.
Yeah.
So we ideated, and now Shardium is a blockchain, which is a smart contract platform with sharding at its core.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, how many people are currently working on this project?
We're about, I would say, about 15 to 17 people who are full time into this. And the rest, our community is, I think, over 6,000 people who, are actively contributing towards building this. And one of the things that we've done differently with Shardium is, we're not sitting behind closed doors and completing the product and then going and giving it to the community. What we've done is we've involved the community from day one. So the community has been involved with, right from the logo to the landing page designs to the website, some of the names like the AlphaNet that we launched last month. It was called Liberty, and that again was something that was driven by the community. So we've involved the community from day one. Yeah, while I would say we're about 17, 18 people full time, I think we're thousands of people building this.
Community is a very important aspect for Shardium, right? Uh, Building Shardium itself, did it get many contributions from the community, or was it something that the team actually did?
So, see, I think we launched Sharding even before Sharding uh, was built out or anything. It's still building Sharding, and the idea was to involve the community from day one. And you know, so I think except for the core protocol layer code, which is being built from the last 4 years with Omar and his team, um, everything else that you would see and experience on Shardium actually has the community deeply involved with that. Um, right from logo design to the website design to naming the first testnet that we launched in April. It's called Liberty, and the community decided on that. To building different. So now, since the testnet is out, the community is building different dApps and protocols on top of that. They're also the blog. Our blog is full of articles contributed by the community. So there's a lot of community involvement. We also want to open up the code to the community. The community cannot do it right now because the code is not yet open source. But and the reason why it's not open source yet is because Omar is filing a patent on some of the designs that have been done in this, and that patent is more for defensive purposes, not for going after other projects or something. But once that patent is filed, I think we'll open source the code, and after that, the community can also involve in the direct development of the protocol. So the idea is to get the community involved everywhere. The core idea is that eventually every decentralized project has to be handed over to a DAO if it really has to be decentralized. And I hear all the time that people say we want to become a DAO eventually, but even if you do not become a DAO, you should act like a DAO from day one, and that's what we're trying to do. Because it will take time before a DAO can truly take over an L1 project, but it does not stop us from behaving that way from day one, where we think that we are already decentralized. So we're trying to do that so that that culture of decentralized working already comes into the project. So that's where the community is really deeply involved.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. If every project that aims to be decentralized aim to, well, behave and act like a DAO, this space would be so much better. So,
Absolutely.
where did the need for Shardium and projects that aim to do something similar came from? What's the problem with layer one chains?
Sure. Look, it's 2022. It's been over 10 years since the concept of blockchain came into the picture. It's been over 4 5 years since I would say this first smart contract platform was launched, and we are still at a stage where we worry about the high gas fees and the low scalability. And this would have been not such a big problem if the crypto markets were a niche market and if we were not seeing any growth. But if you look at the last 3 4 years of growth, the growth in the crypto adoption has skyrocketed. Unfortunately, I think the capabilities in terms of transactions per second (TPS) has not skyrocketed. What that means is, the crypto ecosystem is still fighting the same fight, which is, there's no scalability, so you have to make the gas fees high and make sure that whoever pays the most gets to experience decentralization. Now, I don't believe that that's how we will go from the current 250 million people in crypto to over a billion people. Now it's just more apparent. Today, people, no one's surprised if you say this market is going to go to a billion people. Everyone knows it will. It's just a matter of time. But there is no blockchain today that can actually support over a billion people. Why is because no blockchain can scale. And to solve this, what we need is a blockchain that can infinitely scale, where there is no upper limit. And only a blockchain like that can actually ensure that your fees will always remain low. Doesn't matter how many people get into crypto. And me being close to India, I see tremendous, I would say, growth happening from emerging economies like India, Brazil, Vietnam, Turkey. If you look at all of these geographies, people are coming in tens of thousands every day. And for them, you need to make sure that the fees remains really, really low, because these are all markets which are price sensitive. And in general, I don't think decentralization should cost you $10, $50, or $100 for a transaction. It should maybe cost you 1 cent, or less than a cent. And I think that's what we are trying to aim, so that we can see this market grow from 250 million people to over a billion people. And that's where Shardium comes in, because Shardium scales. You don't have to worry. Doesn't matter how many people use Shardium, the fees will always remain less than a cent. And that's the beauty of it. And we are able to do this because we have Sharding. And so it's a very simple concept. If you look at, let's take your Facebook, for example. If 100 of your friends come to Facebook for the first time, what will Facebook do? They will add more servers so that they can support new people coming in. Is the same thing that you can do on Shardium. So Shardium is the first blockchain where if you add a new node to the network, the transaction per second increases. No other blockchain can claim that. And that is truly needed because as more and more people come, all you need to do is have more and more nodes join the network so that the TPS increases. So that's what we are trying to build out here with Shardium.
And how does Sharding approach that? How does Sharding allow for this to happen? Because
Sure.
normally in networks, chains like Ethereum, by adding more nodes, it won't exactly improve the transaction per second. So, what I think
Right.
a really big topic and important to touch here is what is the scalability trilema? So, what are we talking about?
Sure. See, I think if you look at blockchains in general, if you um, one is there's the security aspect. So you need to make sure that a blockchain is secure. The second is the decentralization. You need to also make sure that while you're securing it, you also have to keep it decentralized. The third is scalability, which is something that's scalable, decentralized, and secure is a blockchain that is like the dream chain. This is the trilema. The trilema is there are these three factors. The problem is you can only achieve, or rather, go towards two of these factors. So security has to be a default. Now you don't want a blockchain which is not secure. So security becomes a default quality. So what are the other two things? One is scalability. The other is decentralization. So all of the chains today compromise on one of these. They're either compromising on scalability uh, or they're compromising on decentralization. So I'll give you an example. Your Ethereum, let's take the example of Ethereum or Bitcoin also. They're decentralized. Why? Because anyone can run a node. You don't have to have permission. You can just run. But they're not scalable. What that means is exactly what you said. You add as many nodes as you want, the TPS will not increase. The decentralization will increase, the redundancy will increase, which means the security will increase, but the TPS or the scalability will not increase. Now, take the other example, which is any of your chains which are DPoS, delegated proof of stake. What that means is not anyone can run a node. Only a set number of validators can run a node, 10 validators, 20 validators, and everyone else has to delegate their stake to these validators. Now, what happens when you have only 10 or 20 validators is decentralization is compromised because you and me can't run nodes. No point. It's just instead of one central entity, you have 20 central entities. It's still a compromise on decentralization. Because of that, they're able to increase their TPS, but not drastically. Like they can go to 100 TPS, 200, 300, maybe 400 per second. But somewhere they also hit their limits, but still, they're still more scalable. So the way to solve this trilemma, which is you have to make sure that a chain is secure, scalable, and at the same time decentralized, is by introducing this concept called as sharding. So what is sharding? Sharding is just breaking a network into multiple small networks, where all these small, or let's make it more easier. You break a network into small pieces, where each of these pieces can actually independently operate. But when you join all of these pieces, that is one network. So that's what sharding does. And because you can break a network, what that means is you achieve parallel processing. So, if there are, let's say, 10 shards in a chain, each of those shards can have, let's say, 1 TPS. So technically, you have 10 TPS speed. Now, if you create a new shard, 11th shard, then your speed increases to 11 TPS. What is a shard? Shard will be a group of computers. Let's say 20 nodes equal to one shard. So you'll have 20 nodes in a shard, and the moment you keep increasing your shards, your TPS increases. So that's what sharding is, and different chains are trying to do this. And there are compromises being made by many of the chain because they did not start with sharding as a concept. For example, Ethereum did not start as a sharded network. So now they want to go into sharding, but they have to make compromises because that was not the core. It's like, can you change a combustion engine into an electric engine right now? Cars are easy. We replace the engine. But what if you had no choice? Your car is running, it's on the road, and you have to change from fossil fuel to electricity. That's the challenge that Ethereum and the other chains that are actually non-sharded, they're trying to solve. They have a working network, they have data, they have people using it. Now they have to switch from them. So they cannot change completely, so they will compromise. While in Shardium, we started with the concept of sharding. So and we don't have to migrate the chain or build anything, any compromises. We've gone the whole the whole length to make sure that sharding is like the first class citizen of Shardium. So for us, it's easier to implement sharding compared to the other chains that are running already.
Yeah, sharding is definitely it hasn't been a new concept in the tech world because it has been achieved with databases a long time ago. But in the blockchain
Yes.
space, well, these projects are trying to achieve it. And as you said, some won't be able to achieve it all that well because of some limitations, like the initial project wasn't meant to be sharded, and others, like Sharium, are trying to implement sharding right from the start. Are not trying, but are implementing sharding right from the start. So they will definitely have an advantage. But you guys also talk about dynamic sharding. So what is dynamic sharding?
Sure. So it's called dynamic state sharding, and like I said before, sharding is like a spectrum. You can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, let's say, and some chains are doing A, B, C. Some are doing a lot more. We're doing the whole thing, and when you do everything that's possible with sharding, you achieve dynamic state sharding. Now, what is dynamic state sharding? Is um, let's take this example. So when you think about sharding, it's not just one aspect. There are three aspects to it. One is you can shard the network. The second is you can shard the data, and the third is you can shard the state. And I can explain all three, but let's not go too deep. But whoever shards on all these three aspects, and they achieve state sharding, and or a dynamic state sharding, and the advantage of dynamic state sharding, I think that is more significant to know, is what I spoke about before, which is your TPS increases every time a new node joins the network. So only a chain that achieves dynamic state sharding can actually give you an increase in TPS every time a new node joins the network. And anything less, then you go lower and lower. So what's lesser than dynamic state sharding is static state sharding. In static state sharding, what happens? To increase your TPS, you have to introduce a whole new shard. So let's take, if every shard had to have 20 nodes, you have to add 20 nodes for your TPS to increase. As against in Shardium, where even one node joins, the TPS increases because we have dynamic state sharding. If you have static state sharding, which is like one level below dynamic, you have to create a brand new shard and add 20, 30 nodes, and then your TPS increases. Now, also to create this new shard, your developer has to push an update. So it's not just like automatic. In Shardium, because of dynamic state sharding, we also have auto scaling. So we never have to get in between. Let's say if the TPS requirement increases 2x, we don't have to do anything. The network automatically increases the number of nodes that can join the network. And as those nodes join the network will automatically scale up. If the TPS reduces, it will scale down. It'll do all of that. So once the network is live, we don't have to interfere. But the the blockchain that implement static state sharding, they'll have developer involvement every time they want to increase the number of shards. And so there are these disadvantages that you get the moment you go anything below dynamic state sharding. Dynamic state sharding is like I would say like the A plus plus of sharding. You can think of it.
Yeah, and what is the network is capable of doing so, but what is the incentive for new nodes to join? How is Sharding going to, well, make sure new nodes actually join the network?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things we've done with our tokenomics is so one is there's a fixed supply of Shardium's native coin, which is SHM, and that number is not going to change. So we have about 508 million SHM that will ever be created. Out of this 508 million SHM, 51% is reserved for node mining for the next 25 years. So for the next 25 years, 51% of the total network supply will be created via mining. And this mining is where the validators come into the picture. And for participating as a validator, you will get SHM. So your first, I would say motivation to join the network as a node is because there is SHM that you can earn by becoming a validator. The best thing about Shardium is we have three different types of nodes. One is an archival node. Archival node is where your historic transaction data is stored. So what happens because of this is your validator nodes, which is the second type, is not really heavy. If you ever try to run node of a existing blockchain, you'll realize it might take you a few hours to maybe a few days to sync the node. And the biggest reason for that is because of the historic data, nothing else. It's just the historic data is so much, just imagine every day, so much of data getting in. That syncing takes a long time. So we have separated out that historic data into archival nodes, which means your validator nodes are very lightweight. So a Shardium validator node, you can get started and maybe in under 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it'll sync up that fast because, all the historic data is gone. You just need state data, which is your account information. That's all. Like how much balance in your account, how much balance in my account, and a few others. So that's all you need to sync. The third node is a standby node. Standby node is actually a validator node, but it's on standby. So that when the network requires more nodes, they can quickly get the standby node to convert it into a validator. So why will you be a validator node or a standby node? Is because you will be rewarded for being that from the node mining activities that happen. So that's the biggest motivator. And as the network grows, you will also start earning transaction fees. Now, transaction fees become really significant if the network TPS increases drastically. So that's the other reason why you would be rewarded. So yeah, these are I think the two main important things. One is the mining rewards and the transaction fees. The fees initially will be very low, and it'll be only beneficial when a lot of transactions start happening.
Yeah, and a user that decides to run a Sharding node, does he have any choice on if he wants to run a validator node or a standby node, or does the network automatically?
Yeah, so since we have auto scaling, you cannot choose to be a validator node. You can just start. You would most probably start as a standby node, and the network will pick your node and convert it into a validator. And the network does this on a frequent basis where it constantly will swap in and swap out the validators and the standby. So what happens is everyone gets an opportunity, one. And the second is, you don't see concentration of nodes belonging to the same entity in a shard. So that's this constant swapping in and out and rotation of the network. So when you run your node, it'll first become a standby. And then, several times in a day, it'll convert into a validator, get back to a standby. So there'll be that back and forth.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. Not only is it allowing for scalability, but it is also increasing the decentralization, which is, well,
absolutely
solving the scalability trilema. So what does make Sharding different from other layer 2 scaling solutions, Change?
So Shardeum is a layer 1 chain, but yeah, I think when you think about layer 2, I just think that it's wrong to look at layer 2 as a scaling solution. Layer 2s are not really a scaling solution because you're talking about scaling by compromising decentralization. I don't see how that is a scaling solution. It's as good as saying that you can run a centralized, server and scale it. Then you don't even need an L2, honestly. But anyways, so I think even be it L1 or L2, the question is how is this scaling done? And like I said before, the majority of the L2 or almost all of the L2s, they're scaling by compromising on decentralization because they have less number of nodes to sync. And because they have less number of nodes to sync, their TPS increases. But they have a limit on the TPS. There's no L2 today which can tell you that they can go beyond maybe 1,000 TPS. So L2s are not scaling solutions. They're actually a stopgap or a band-aid to the problem today. And
Right.
I don't think they can last a long term as scaling solution. However, I look at L2s as a customization solution. What I mean by that is, let's say you are a game developer and you want to launch your own decentralized game, but there are certain aspects that you expect out of a blockchain where your game should be. Now, that's when I believe you should go for an L2, which will be customizable or customized for your gaming, requirements. And then you plug into an L1 for the decentralization aspect. So I look at L2s as that customization layer that game developers and other app developers would require based on what they're building, because you can't always keep building an L1 just because you need 3 or 4 key characteristics to be in your blockchain, and an L1 doesn't mean you go and create a new L1, because that's really hard to do. But an L2, you can spin up an L2 and then use an L1 for the decentralization aspect. That's really convenient, and I think that's the way to look at L2s. So yeah, but right now I think they're being passed off as scaling solutions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I never really thought about that properly, actually. How many layer 2 solutions, well, they're not really scaling as well. The definition of scaling isn't solving the immediate
Right.
issue, right? It's allowing to solve the issue constantly. So, yeah, very interesting, well, perspective on that. So, what is Shardium's goal? Let's talk a little bit about the roadmap and what you guys plan on doing in the following months and years.
See, I think our goal is making decentralization available for everyone. It's very simple, and I think that should be the goal for everyone who's into building a layer one solution, which is make decentralization available. And decentralization can only be made available when you solve that trilema, and it is true. There's no other way, or you just don't scale. So scalability is the only compromise you can, if you think about it, because you can't compromise on security, you can compromise on decentralization. So our objective is, but when you think about making decentralization available for everyone, you can only do that if it is also scaled. So that's what Shardium is all about. And how do we do that is in different stages. I think the first stage was, make sure you have that technology, which we've achieved. So uh, none of the technical, aspects that I spoke about until now have not been implemented. They've all been implemented, by the way. So we are not right now, as we speak, our testnet is out, and we are testing it out. We are also seeing what are the, let's say, real world issues that we encounter, but we don't have any unknown challenges to be solved. It's all solved. So we've achieved that. Now the next step was, work with the community to understand whether there are changes needed, or what bugs might appear and what problems we might have not seen. So that is the stage that we are at right now. After this, we in quarter 3 of 2022, we launched the BetaNet. So in the BetaNet, you will be able to run the test server. So right now the AlphaNet is there, but you cannot run the node. In the BetaNet in the next quarter, Q3 2022, you can run your own test servers as well. So that will be truly very interesting to see. You can run a node, test node, and we will also see how people, what problems they will encounter running a validator node. Because everyone has been wanting to run validator nodes, but none of us can, because it's just so expensive and so difficult to run a node today. But because we have made it very simple, it'll be very interesting to see how people do that. So that's coming in the BetaNet. And then in the fourth quarter of this year, 2022, towards the end of the year, we'll be launching the mainnet. So this is our roadmap for the release. We've also in the process of raising funds right now. We're raising about $18 million. That's the round one. And I think we're oversubscribed. We're finishing off the fund transfers right now. But we did not want to go with one VC or one large VC. So we've brought in, I would say, several investors and angels. So we are completing that out. We are also hiring. we're building out the team as we speak right now. We're looking out for really talented folks who want to make a difference by joining a decentralized movement. So we are looking for people all around the world. Our team is distributed today between like our tech team is in Dallas, Texas. Some marketing team is there. Then India, Myanmar, Dubai. So we are in 4 countries right now. We're also looking for and UK as well. So 5 countries right now. So we are hiring, putting together the team. Then we've started all our efforts on community building and social networks. So like our Twitter account crossed 20,000 followers, all organic, no money spent yet at all, not even $1. Then our Discord community has I think over 6,000 people or 7,000 people. So we are starting all of these community building efforts. We're also blogs. Our blog is very active. We've started seeing organic traffic coming on the blog. So all of this, and we've also just started now figuring out to how to put together a hackathon for the developers so that they can build on it. Speaking of which, one of the advantages of Shardium is we are using the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine. So what that means is, you don't have to choose between building for Shardium or Ethereum. If you build for Ethereum, you're built for Shardium. If you build for Shardium, you're built for Ethereum because it's the same EVM. So there's no porting also. It's the same application that you've built. You can use both chains. So I think these are some of the things that we are working on. We're also trying to figure out, what is that 1 or 2 growth hacks that you can implement as a new chain, which will attract, let's say, the first million people onto the chain. We got around 6-7 months before the mainnet. So by that time, we hope to think of some, a couple of good solutions to help people onboard quickly to the chain.
Yeah. What will increase or drive user and developer adoption? What is the main factor that you think will drive users and developers to the platform?
Right. I think, and it's a chicken and egg problem because, you need developers for users to come. You need users for developers to come. So, and for me, fortunately, I think I've done this before once with WazirX, our crypto exchange in India, where, you needed buyers and sellers. And if there is no seller, no buyer comes. If there is no buyer, no seller comes. So you have a chicken and egg problem on an exchange as well. And I think one of the things I've learned is, while it's a chicken and egg problem, you need to choose what you want to go after. And, you can't go after both unless you have a ton of resources. Most times you don't. So you need to choose. And this is also one of the reasons why I think we chose EVM, because one side of the problem is solved, which is the developer side. Because whatever is built out already for the Ethereum network, it works. Like MetaMask, you can just use it on Shardium. Just change the URL, it starts working. So I believe that at least one part of the problem is partially solved, which means we are going to focus on the consumers and try to bring them on board. Now, the question is, what can you do for consumers? So first thing first, I think the beauty of a sharded chain is we can assure you that the fees will always be low. And, the second part is the fact that you can run nodes. Everyone's wanting to run node, but this is the first time you'll be able to, and you'll be able to earn by running a node on a really cheap, low cost server. So not a lot of initial investment, $50 or $100 a month. That's what it will cost you, and you can make maybe $200 or $500 a month running a node. So that participation will come in. I think in terms of how do you attract consumers, one is I'm going to focus on, like I said, my strengths, which is one is India. We have a large community of users in India from all the work we've done in the last 4 or 5 years. So we're going to attract a lot of people from India who want to experience an L1 and not have to burn a hole in their pocket by paying their fees. And then also try to find out what happens if your fees is really low now, and it's not going to go up if too many people use your product because some scales. I think an amazing array of new products can be built out. So I'm going to look for teams that want to build a scalable product on top of Shardium, and I'm going to help them make their dApps and protocols popular on at least in India, and that becomes like the genesis, the start where maybe 1 to 2 million people from India get attracted to Shardium. They start using it, and then they tell their friends, and then the rest of the world sees, okay, what's happening here, and others join in. And I think that's how it should pan out. But again, till we don't go live, we wouldn't know. I
Yeah,
think sometimes there are surprises that crop up. But my strategy is this: focus on the Indian consumers, and we have over 25 million people in India into crypto, and get maybe the first 1 to 2 million people from there.
these will definitely be some very exciting months ahead. So, yeah, where can people learn more about Sharding?
So you can go to shardium.org, and we have a lot of resources there. You can also test out the testnet. You can use MetaMask to test. There's a faucet where you can claim 100 SFM to test it out, and report bugs if you find any bugs. Try to deploy like what people are doing, even if you know a bit of tech, just a bit of tech. People are forking other Ethereum protocols and deploying it on the testnet to test it out. It's a test net. You can fail. So if you're an entrepreneur or a builder or a developer, you can build on that. If you're a consumer who's always wanted to experience decentralization, but you were worried about losing money, or I don't know how to keep it safe, just come to the test net and try it out. There's nothing to lose. So that you can come to shardium.org for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was awesome talking with you. This is definitely a very exciting project, and I'm going to keep a close eye to see how you guys are doing. And yeah, I myself want to get involved more with the community, and I hope someone who's hearing this gets excited as well. So, what can we do to join the community?
See, I think the best way is join Discord. There's so much of learning, and everyone's helping each other out. So if you're a newbie, just join the Discord channel. That's discord.gg/Shardium, and you can get involved. We in fact also have different language-based channels inside, different country-based, and there's a global channel. So a lot of people out there. So I think Discord is the best way to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a very nice day. Well,
Thanks, Nuno. Thanks a lot for inviting me here. Pleasure to
yeah,
be here.
stay safe.